Meeting will come to order. Please rise for a moment of silence for our men and women that are fighting in Iraq. Mr. John Rice will lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-10, has been complied with and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting.
Roll call.
Freeholder Barrett?
Here.
Freeholder Polos?
Here.
Freeholder Rafano?
Here.
Freeholder Rios?
Here.
Freeholder Scott?
Here.
Freeholder Valenti?
Here.
Freeholder Director Delina?
Here. At this time, I'm reading a statement about the introduction of our 2009 Middlesex County budget. The 2009 Middlesex County budget, operating budget that we introduced tonight at $392 million, and it includes $9.6 million to make over the next few weeks that we meet the state cap limits. I have to thank and applaud Budget Director Al Conchekis. All our department heads and the entire staff were swift and determined action to make hard decisions that put the taxpayer first. Since unveiling the budget plan in January, the Board of Chosen Freeholders in Middlesex County Departments have aggressively cut operating expenses, salaries, and wages to ensure taxpayers receive quality programs and services at prices that we could afford. We know that the cutting expense alone is not enough. Introducing a responsible budget, we are looking for new ways to bring revenue into the county. Each freeholder has taken the lead on revenue-generating initiatives with the departments. Deputy Director Christopher D. Rafano, Chairman of the Administration and Finance Committee, will detail those for you. Again, I express my thanks to County Controller, Budget Director Al Conchekis, his entire team, and all the county department heads and staff members who have worked closely with us during the difficult budget process. I especially want to thank the employees who brought forward ideas of new sources of revenue and cost efficiency. Middlesex County is the greatest county in the land, only because the people who live here, but because the people who work here. I thank you. I would like to recognize now Freeholder Deputy Director Christopher D. Rafano, Chairman of our Administration and Finance Committee, for the purpose of detailing the status of the budget. Freeholder Rafano.
Thank you, Freeholder Director. The 2009 operating budget for Middlesex County we introduced tonight reflects the Board of Chosen Freeholders' focus on the reduction in the size and cost of county government as ways to achieve the goals of high-quality service and affordability to our taxpayers. The Board in 2009 has been able to introduce a total operating budget that is $4.96 million less than the 2008 budget. This was done despite large increased costs and reductions in program funding passed on to the county by the state and federal governments. The economic downturn being experienced nationwide has negatively impacted Middlesex County's traditional revenue sources. The 2009 introduced budget reflects $21.1 million less in revenue from 2008 levels. We have made significant cuts in the expenses we control to bring in a budget that falls under state cap laws. We have reduced salaries and wages by freezing all vacant positions, eliminating positions through attrition, reducing overtime, and freezing 2009 salaries for all employees, union and non-union. Looking to the future, under Freeholder Director Delina's leadership, the county has begun a staff attrition plan to reduce the workforce and cost of government over the next 3 years. We also have streamlined all costs associated with computer purchases and maintenance and will optimize and reduce the county fleet of vehicles. In these tough economic times, my fellow board members and I recognize that cutting expenses alone is not enough. To that end, we are aggressively seeking new revenue sources. At my direction, County Information Technology Director Khalid Anjum is aggressively pursuing a plan to build cell towers on county-owned land and opportunities to lease additional space to private and public entities. The project is projected to produce an annual savings of $528,000 in telecommunications operating expenses and generate at least $500,000 in revenue annually from space rental. Under Freeholder Carol Barrett, the county will develop a long-term strategy for the planning and utilization of county-owned and leased properties. We will be looking at methods and procedures to reduce the cost of the day-to-day operations of county business. In addition, by working with the engineering and planning department to define the county's infrastructure needs, we can ensure federal stimulus package funds will not only put people back to work, but bring efficiency to our operations. Under Freeholder Jim Polis's leadership, the county is conducting energy audits of county buildings and has implemented energy savings education to our staff. The county currently is conducting an energy audit of the Apple Orchard Lane buildings. The county also is pursuing facilities that can produce alternative forms of energy that can be used to power county facilities. Any additional energy generated can then be sold to utility companies. Also, Freeholder Polis is leading the effort to explore advertising and naming rights at various county recreational facilities. Freeholder Ronald Rios is developing a cost-effective strategy to address the growing needs of our aging population and their overall health and well-being. One element of this is the construction of a state-of-the-art long-term care facility in Old Bridge, which will incorporate environmentally friendly features, making it LEED certified. The county also is committed to enhance the health care services available to our residents. In addition, Freeholder Rios is working with Middlesex County College and vocational and technical schools to promote the use of alternative energy sources to reduce operating expenses at these institutions. Freeholder Mildred Scott is continuing to actively pursue shared service agreements with other counties for medical examiner, juvenile detention, and other public safety-related services and activities. Also under her direction, the county has taken a leading role in the development of a statewide searchable law enforcement database that enables county and municipal officers to access information to support investigations efficiently. Freeholder Blanquita Valente is spearheading an effort to bring shared services to the social service agencies that are contracted by the county to assist our residents. By educating the agencies on ways that could create cooperative purchasing and share certain tasks, we can help them realize operational efficiencies, lessen their reliance on county funds, and help them provide greater resources to the people who need it most. I want to personally thank Budget Director Al Kachinkis, our County Administrator John Polomina, and all of our county employees who have really pulled together as a team to reach a responsible budget that maintains all our quality services while lessening the burden on our county taxpayers. I would also like to especially thank those employees who brought ideas for new sources of revenue and ways to reduce expenses. They have embraced the budgetary process, knowing the critical economic times this nation is facing. And I want to finish by saying this. The more we come together as a team and work toward a common goal, the stronger we are as a government, the stronger we are as a county, and the stronger we are for our citizens. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to mention this. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Go ahead.
I've given everybody a copy of the editorial that was in the Home News today. I certainly want to thank them for recognizing all of our efforts in this budget that we introduced tonight. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Freeholder Rafano. Introduction to the 2009 annual budget. Clerk will read the resolution relative to the establishment of the cap bank for 2009 year.
Calendar year 2009 resolution to increase tax levy cap limits and establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-45.14. Authorized public hearing to be held on Monday, April 13, 2009 at 7 p.m. in the Freeholders meeting room.
Okay.
Whereas the local government cap law, NJSA 40A:4-45.1 et sec, provides that in the preparation of its annual budget, a county shall limit any increase in its levy in said budget to 2.5% unless authorized by resolution to increase it to 3.5% over the previous year's tax levy, subject to certain exceptions. And whereas NJSA 40A:4-45.15A provides that a county may, when authorized by resolution, establish and when and if necessary, utilize a cap bank for the allowable increase from the 2.5% cap limit to the 3.5% percentage rate within the current year or in either of the next 2 succeeding years. And whereas the County of Middlesex finds it advisable and prudent to increase its calendar year 2008 tax levy cap by up to 3.5% over the previous years in the interest of promoting the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And whereas the Board of Chosen Freeholders hereby determines that a 1% increase in the tax levy cap bank for said year, amounting to $1,721,351 in excess of the tax levy cap bank otherwise permitted by the local government cap law, is advisable and prudent. And whereas the Board of Chosen Freeholders hereby determines that any amount authorized herein above that is not utilized as part of the final budget tax levy shall be retained as an exception to the final tax levy cap in either of the next 2 succeeding years. And whereas NJSA 40A:4-45.14 requires that a public hearing be held thereon, and whereas this board wishes to hold said public hearing on Monday, April 13, 2009 at 7 p.m. in the Freeholders Meeting Room, County Administration Building, New Brunswick. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Middlesex, a majority of the full authorized membership of this governing body affirmatively concurring that in the calendar year 2009 budget year, the final allowable tax levy cap of the County of Middlesex shall, in accordance with this resolution and NJSA 48:4-45.14, be increased by 1%, amounting of $1,721,351, and that the calendar year 2009 county budget for the County of Middlesex be approved and adopted in accordance with this resolution, and be it further resolved that any amount authorized herein above that is not utilized as part of the final budget tax levy shall be retained as an exception to the final tax levy cap in either of the next 2 succeeding years. And be it further resolved that a public hearing shall be held on Monday, April 13, 2009 at 7 p.m. in the Freeholders Meeting Room, County Administration Building, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Be it further resolved that the clerk of this board shall cause this resolution to be published in the Home News Tribune, East Brunswick, at least 10 days prior to the date of said public hearing. Be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution as introduced be filed with the Director of the Division of Local Government Services within 5 days of introduction. And be it further resolved that a certified copy of this resolution upon adoption be with the recorded vote included thereon, be filed with said director within 5 days after such adoption.
Okay. I need a motion on the above resolution.
Motion.
Motion by Rafano.
Second.
Second by Carol Barrett. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett,
Yes.
Freeholder Polos,
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano,
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti,
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Okay, clerk will read the county budget notice.
Annual budget of the County of Middlesex for the fiscal year 2009. Be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the county's budget for the year 2009. Be it further resolved that a summary of said budget be published in the Home News Tribune in the issue of March 13, 2009. The Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Middlesex does hereby approve the following as the budget for the year 2009. Summary of approved budget. Total of general appropriations for 2009, $392,136,000. Less anticipated revenues, $94,652,000. Amount to be raised by taxation, county purpose tax, $297,484,000.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I need a motion to introduce the budget.
Motion.
Motion by Rafano, second by Rios. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett,
Yes.
Freeholder Polos,
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano,
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott,
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti,
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Any freeholder would like to have any discussion on it? None? Okay. Madam Clerk, we have another notice you could read.
Notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution was approved by the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Middlesex on March 5, 2009. A hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held at the County Administration Building, New Brunswick, New Jersey, on April 13, 2009 at 7 p.m., at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2009 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons.
Okay, thank you. Now we have the Let's see, deviate from the regular, okay, open space. Margaret, we have any correspondence?
Right now, we'll deviate from the regular order of business to consider a resolution number 09325, which relates to open space.
Okay, need a motion.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Blanquita, second by Carol Barrett. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett?
Yes.
Freeholder Polos?
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano?
Yes.
Freeholder Rios?
Yes.
Freeholder Scott?
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti?
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina?
Yes. Okay, I would like to, at this time, recognize Paul Clark of Middlesex County Improvement Authority, who will outline the purchase and discuss photos of the property. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Director. This thing to work will be good.
Okay.
Going the wrong way. Yeah. There we go.
Go.
All right. Good evening, freeholders. Tonight I'm seeking your approval to purchase for open space purposes an approximate 10-acre parcel located in South Plainfield, which is known as the Adams Farm. As you may recall, this property is one of several within the Dismal Swamp that the Freeholder Board sent to the Improvement Authority for due diligence, with the strong support of the Borough of South Plainfield and environmental groups, several of which are represented here tonight. There you go. The property will be purchased from A. Ferraro Construction Company, who is under contract to purchase the property from the original owner, Mr. Charles Adams. Two appraisals were obtained by the MCIA. The appraisals were based on the fact that the contract purchaser had received preliminary approval for a 16-lot subdivision on the parcel. The sale price negotiated at this time is $2,450,000. The contract purchaser is also entering into a lease which allows Mr. Adams, an elderly man who is the original owner, to retain occupancy of the residential dwelling on the property and an approximate 12,500 square foot portion of the property for the remainder of his life. The county will assume the lease, and then Mr. Adams will be responsible for all utilities, insurance, real estate taxes, and assessments for the property, including repair and maintenance during his occupancy. The lease agreement provides that the property is not transferable and that upon the death of Mr. Adams, the lease will be terminated and the property will become open space. It should also be noted, with the help of the New York, New Jersey Baykeeper, that the MCIA is seeking substantial outside contributions towards the purchase price of this parcel. The New York, New Jersey Baykeeper has provided great assistance with identifying this funding, as they have previously, and we appreciate their help and support for this project.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I will open the public portion on, pardon me. Are you not finished yet?
I'm good. No,
Oh, yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I will open the public portion on this resolution 09-25 only. Anybody from the audience would like to be? Yes, ma'am.
Point of order, is there any more agendas or no?
We're on the agenda.
What?
We're
Where
on the
are the agendas?
I guess we're out.
You want a copy? There's
Take
over
some
there.
more.
There's a consent, the consent resolutions are there.
They're over there, consent resolutions over there.
Oh, they're out?
I think
They're all gone.
We got some. We'll make some extra ones.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm Program Supervisor with Edison Wetlands Association. I'm here tonight on behalf of Bob Spiegel, Executive Director for Edison Wetlands Association, as well as David Wheeler, who is the Conservation Program Director, as well as founded Wild New Jersey. I'm reading statements on behalf of them. On behalf of the nonprofit Edison Wetlands Association, I would like to thank the Middlesex County Freeholders for voting on the purchase to finalize the purchase of Adams Farm in South Plainfield for preservation as open space, as well as to continue moving forward with acquisitions of the two properties in the Dismal Swamp Conservation Area, Quincy Place Associates, which is at the end of Helen Street in South Plainfield, and the Visco Tracks in Edison. At more than 1,200 acres, the Dismal Swamp Conservation Area is among the last remaining viable wetlands ecosystems in highly urban central New Jersey. It spans portions of Edison, Metuchen, and South Plainfield, and includes forested uplands, meadows, vernal pools, environmentally sensitive freshwater wetlands, and the headwaters of the Bound Brook. The Dismal Swamp provides natural flood control and wildlife habitat, while its forests produce oxygen and its wetlands clean and purify the water. In fact, the Dismal Swamp holds federal priority wetlands designated by both the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the United States Environmental Agency. Bless you. The current proposal, which was to pave over the Adams Farm and fill wetlands, build homes in a floodplain and worsen existing flooding for our local families, and destroy wildlife habitats utilized by several threatened and endangered species. Adams Farm, the last remaining farm in South Plainfield, should be preserved as open space. This was before. So many of the neighboring families have come with us with dire concerns for the lack of safety and the plummeting property values that will accompany this floodplain construction. Adams Farm is particularly vital purchase because of its location as a future terminus of the Middlesex County Greenways, which will ultimately provide hikers and bicyclists with a scenic walkway going from Perth Amboy all the way through Woodbridge, Edison, Metuchen, and ending next to Adams Farm and South Plainfield. As for the other two sites, Quincy Place sits adjacent to the Everglades of central New Jersey, the most scenic and ecologically important area in the entire Dismal Swamp, yet is being proposed for development. Finally, at Visco, healthy wetlands and uplands are slated to be bulldozed for condos and a sprawling Jehovah's Witness center. The county made tremendous progress last summer with the purchase of their 69-acre South Plainfield holding tracts, with funding from the New York, New Jersey Port Authority and the expert guidance of the New York and New Jersey Baykeeper. To ensure the significance of this purchase is maximized, it is critical that the county purchase the nearby properties of Adams Farm, Quincy Place Associates, and the Visco tracts. Yet most critical today is Adams Farm. In addition to our longtime leadership in Dismal Swamp Conservation Area, Edison Wetlands is working with an ecological consultant on the first ever comprehensive Dismal Swamp Conservation Area inventory and report, which I'm holding the draft in my hand. This will finally offer all stakeholders a set of maps, data, and land use information to support the larger vision of preserving this natural scenic oasis. Finally, I would like to offer our direct assistance on the Adams Farm acquisition through managing the easement of the property for public access and conservation, if that would help the county. Please let me know if this is any interest to the freeholders, and I would be happy to discuss the possibility more at your convenience. Now I'm going to read the statement from David Wheeler, Director of Operations with Edison Wetlands, also the founder of WildNewJersey.tv. In addition to Robert Spiegel's statements, I would like to issue a very brief support statement for the Middlesex County Freeholders' efforts to purchase and preserve the Adams Farm. As the largest contiguous wetlands in central New Jersey, the Dismal Swamp Conservation Area provides much-needed habitat for at least 175 species of birds, 25 species of mammals, and nearly 24 species of amphibians and reptiles. At least 11 endangered species and threatened species of birds have been sighted in the DIS, from the yellow-crowned night heron to the peregrine falcon. A state species of special concern, the spotted turtle, can also be found here in the Everglades of central Jersey. Such ecological diversity led New Jersey Audubon and Rutgers University scientists to launch a 2-year study of breeding birds at locations throughout the Dismal Swamp, beginning in May 2008 and lasting through 2009, as well as garnering the support of the New Jersey Sierra Club for the conservation efforts for the Dismal Swamp Conservation Area. I invite you to join us firsthand for a tour of the area. Does mean I have a couple more seconds? I invite you to join us for a tour of the area. I'll give it to you personally. I think I've said that to you all in the past. One last mention to this comprehensive inventory that we've done on the Dismal Swamp. It is not yet for public access. It will be for review at our Earth Day event at the Triple C Ranch on April 25th. And I have our statement as well as some Earth Day flyers here for you all, just in case you're interested. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak on that?
Hi, I'm Greg Rameau, Deputy Director of the Conservation Group, New York, New Jersey Baykeeper, and I just want to thank the freeholders for once again for their diligence and foresight in going after important open space in Middlesex County that's important to the county, local residents in the region. Melanie and Edison Wetlands, and I know Jane will cover the ecological aspects. So I just want to briefly say that we're pleased to be working with the county again. For anyone who's not familiar, the last property, the Texas Eastern property, not only did the county go out and purchase it, but they brought in a match from the Port Authority, which paid for over 60% of that property. So they've really leveraged county money well as pursuing the open space, and hopefully that's a similar case again today. I just, along with thanking Administrator Palomina, it's also worth noting that some of this outside money, hopefully again, will come from the Port Authority, and I've had the opportunity to work with them for several years around the region. And when this property came up, they were eager to review it and hopefully partner, and one of the reasons was they said that they had such a good experience working with the county, working with Paul Clark and Ray May and the real estate team, and that hasn't been the case throughout the region. It's their money. But the point is that it's not only a great project, but it was a very positive experience working with the county. So we look forward to working with you, and again, applaud your efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak about this resolution?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing, Rufano.
Oh,
Second.
sorry, hang on.
There's some
Sorry.
people that...
You know which one you're talking about?
Same again.
The resolution?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Not used to speaking in public. Thank you, Freeholders. My name is Martin Chang. I live 3 houses away from the swamp at the corner of Fleet Avenue and Spring Street. So the outcome of tonight's vote will directly affect me, my wife, my 2 little kids, and many of my neighbors. I moved to my home about 5 years ago due to its proximity to the swamp, and I got to tell you, it's nice, quiet, and beautiful. The swamp's wetland status and being a natural habitat for endangered species led me to believe that it was protected from housing development. Obviously, my belief was not entirely correct, and my new neighbors told me pretty much after I settled down that we've been fighting housing development within the swamp for the last 10, 15 years, as long as it go back. And the latest one is the Adams Garden project to build 18 townhomes. And I know time's precious, so I will not repeat all the benefits of this move swamp, which is providing to us, and the environmental and traffic and life impacts its destruction will cause us. But I'd like to share a personal experience. First of all, wetland, by definition, means is wet. And so it's understandable that the water table level tends to be higher in the surrounding area. And we all remember a few years ago, there was this major rainstorm, and my sump pumps, yes, actually I got 2 of them in my basement, started and continued running for 10 days after the storm to pump out water. And I was lucky enough to be spared of a flooded basement, but my other neighbors were not as lucky, and the sight of furniture, carpet, and appliance being thrown out on the street due to flooding just not easy to bear. So I just want to, we don't have a choice. Every time when there's a new development project that started, we have to keep opposing and keep fighting it. But you do have the power to vote on the purchase tonight and to protect it. And lastly, I just want to say that, like my community, we are all from different backgrounds, but I think we all share the same philosophy. We want to live the better for our children and their children, and we don't want to take away from them. And in this case, I think the Dismal Swamp is unique and precious, and certainly is a treasure for us to keep, not just for ourselves, but also for the future generations. Please vote to acquire the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes?
Jane Tausman, 14 Butler Road, Edison. I was one of the founders of a Save Our Swamp organization, which fought for 6 years to save this property. And I really feel that you are doing the right thing tonight in saving this ecological treasure. I also am on the executive committee of the Sierra Club, and we fully approve of acquisition of the Adams property. This property does have a lot of things that can damage the neighborhood and can do a lot of flood damage with the wetlands, the priority wetlands that are there. And the wildlife will serve beautifully to teach our young all about the wildlife and the threatened and endangered species that exist on this big property. I want to thank you for your efforts tonight. We all appreciate what you're doing, and we all hope that this property can be saved. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes?
Irene Wall, 205 Fleet Avenue, Edison. I've been a resident of Edison for 40 years. And I guess like Martin, one of the things that brought me to it was the proximity to the wildlife area. I am pleased to say that I remember it when it was, as the children called it, the Pony Ranch. And of course, the Triple C comes from Chris C. Christensen, Triple C, the man who owned the ranch. My children went there many times, coming back with a little turtle or some other little something or other, which was then returned because I said, take it back. So I applaud Bob Spiegel and the Edison Wetlands Association in their environmental endeavors at the ranch. Many groups now are enjoying the Triple C and its animals, the trails, and the wildlife. I still have deer coming into my backyard. I feed the birds, but not the deer, I'm sorry. I don't have enough of money. And at a time when developers are so anxious to pave every leaf, every piece of earth, it is a breath of fresh air, literally, to enjoy the Dismal Swamp. By approving this purchase of the Adams Farm, as we call it, and we know Mr. Adams, elderly gentleman that he is, you will be expanding open space and preserving this historic area for everyone seeking peace, quiet, and the beauty of nature. And it's not just for us. We're open to having it share with you. A lot of people don't know where we are, and that might be good for a while, but we certainly are anxious to open it up to anyone who wants to come in. And if you stand there, you do not know 287 is nearby, and the traffic of Edison, Metuchen, South Plainfield is nearby. It is a peaceful place to be. And so if you're looking for some tranquility, please come to the Dismal Swamp. I thank you very much, the Freeholders, for giving us the opportunity to speak on it and also mostly to acquire it. Thank you very much.
Hold on. Hold on, okay?
I'm
Anybody
sorry.
else would like to speak?
I am finished. Thank you.
Well, that's what somebody's raising their hand over there. Okay, nobody? At this time, I'll have a motion to close the... Where?
Oh.
Well, you better come up here. Okay.
Hi, I'm Larry Feldman, and I'm right on the border of the Dismal Swamp where the trees and there's woods there, and I see a lot of deer and I see birds. I don't know what kind of birds they are, but there is an owl up in the tree that whoos at me. I don't know, Horton hears a who or whatever, but anyway, I wanted to say that the woods flood when it rains. It's very soggy, and the rain comes down the street, right out of the woods, and I had a little flood in my basement, and so did neighbors of mine, and some pumps were going, and I saw people with their rugs rolled up outside, you know, waiting to be picked up. I didn't have rugs, so I just, you know, I have tile, so I didn't really lose a lot of things, but I think it's a good idea that the swamp is saved and things aren't built there, because it would be a lot worse if there weren't trees and grass and whatever. The water wouldn't have any place to go. So I wanted to thank everybody for this resolution. the Edison Wetlands, the Baykeeper, everybody involved in this. And thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second, by Juanquita Valenti. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody? Motion to adopt resolution 09325. I need a motion.
So moved.
By
Second.
Rehost, seconded by Carol Barrett. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Polos.
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Okay, now at this time, we'll have the reports of freeholders. Freeholder Carol Barrett.
Good evening, everyone. I have a short report. You'll notice on tonight's agenda that we'll be voting on resolution number 09355, which will approve the award of a contract to a qualified company to provide services for the paint drop-off program for 2009. This is a very important program, and I urge all of the residents to take advantage of this. This program was started in 1997. Almost 49,000 residents have delivered over 725,000 containers of paint and paint-related materials weighing over 5 million pounds to our drop-offs. Also, on tonight's agenda, there's a resolution 09357, which approves the contract for household hazardous waste services. This was initiated in 1989, and our county residents have delivered all types of unwanted household chemicals, including motor oil, fluorescent bulbs, car batteries, and many other things. And the details on these two programs are on our county's website, or you can call the Division of Solid Waste Management at 732-745-4170. And I urge all of the county residents to take advantage of these areas that we can dispose of our waste. We must all, every single resident, recycle. It's our earth, our environment, and we all have to take part in saving it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Freeholder Barrett. Freeholder H. Jane Paulus from Highland Park.
Thank you, Freeholder Director. A couple of items. One, very pleased that Middlesex County was featured in the recent National Association of Counties magazine, one of 5 counties featured from throughout the country for efforts in green technology and implementation of energy efficiency in our county. So we're very pleased with that recognition by the National Association of Counties. Also pleased to inform you that we have now received proposals from several vendors for design of our new vehicle washing facility, which we're slating for North Brunswick, which is a cooperative venture with several other communities. It's a major shared service initiative for our county to work with 4 surrounding communities to develop one shared service vehicle washing facility to meet the new DEP regulations for stormwater runoff. Our snow, March certainly came in like a lion. I want to compliment our road department for doing a yeoman's job in a very difficult storm. It was a long storm, but they did a wonderful job keeping the county roads dry and clear and free of snow and ice, and certainly public properties, and the cleanup that they did around all of our county buildings. Again, congratulations to all of them. This past week, Freeholder Barrett, who was the co-chair with myself, we're co-chairing the Middlesex County Sustainability Committee, met with the New Jersey State Sustainability Institute, which is the firm that was hired through a state grant to develop the county sustainability plan. I'm pleased to inform you that we have almost have received the draft. We expect to have an actual draft copy in our hands within the next 30 to 60 days. We'll then be meeting once again with our executive committee, and our hope is to be able to unveil this project in early September. There is a wonderful website that's been developed by the State Sustainability Institute, which is going to be able to allow the public, as well as obviously county officials, to track literally instantaneously the progress that Middlesex County is making in achieving the goals that are established in several different particular areas of sustainability. And I guess it's apropos to talk about that tonight with the purchase of additional open space, and certainly preserving open spaces in Middlesex County is a very strong element of ensuring that we have sustainability going forward, so they certainly work hand in hand. At the next meeting, we'll be appointing the membership of our Green Economic Development Zone. We have solicited input from our local mayors. We have 2 additional mayors that will be serving on this committee, and again, our goal will be to develop a plan to attract green-collar economic development opportunities to our county and be able to create new job opportunities in some of the vacant warehouse and manufacturing space throughout our county. Last but not least, at Monday's meeting, George Vavridis, our Director of Planning, made a wonderful presentation about the Transportation Advisory Committee, a group that has been operating in Middlesex County for a number of years. Their role, if you will, has expanded in the last few years, where they are not only involved in coordinating transportation activities with our communities and obviously the county agencies, but they've also been a very strong advocate for trying to obtain state and federal grants to make sure that the bridges and culverts and county road systems in our county have all the possible available funds from outside agencies to assist us in making our roads the safest in the state. They certainly have done a wonderful job in doing that over the years, and I want to compliment George and his entire team, the entire Technical Transportation Advisory Committee, on their efforts. As a new member of that TAC, we affectionately call it the TAC, and the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority, we had an opportunity this past week to meet with a representative from the NJTPA, which is the direct link to the federal government for the new stimulus package that we hear so much about each and every day. We have been told that approximately $651 million will be coming to the state for various road improvement projects and other types of infrastructure improvements. Approximately $14 million of that will be coming to Middlesex County specifically for road improvement projects. Unfortunately, the long list of projects that we provided after we solicited input from our communities was for the most part eliminated by the federal authorities, who really wanted projects ready to go, as they said, shovel ready, without any permits or approvals necessary. It took a very large list that we provided and really dwindled it down to a very short list of road improvement projects. That's not the worst of the situation, but one of the concerns that I expressed at the meeting is the fact that in a very short period of time, and there are very specific constraints being provided by the federal government on this funding, nearly $700 million will be coming to the state. And almost the vast majority of that money will be used towards road improvement projects. There are only 21 or so asphalt plants in the state of New Jersey, and probably about 25 or so actual contractors who could do this type of work. The concern that I have is that by putting that amount of money on the street for these specific projects without any type of regulations or control, we may have an opportunity to see prices inflate dramatically as a result of just simple supply and demand. It would seem to me prudent on the part of the state to have some regulation or controls implemented to ensure that prices don't shoot high as a result of, again, this supply and demand issue. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, that we're being forced to use this money in a very finite period of time. So I'm sure you can understand that contractors as well as manufacturers of asphalt are going to perhaps or certainly could have the opportunity to take advantage of that. And I'm not suggesting that they will, but I think it's prudent for the government to ensure that there are some controls on that. What I'd like to ask the Freeholder Board to do is to entertain at the next meeting a resolution requesting that the state either consider a state contract price for this type of work, or at least ensure that there are some controls and regulations in place so that we can ensure that for the $14 million we receive, we'll actually receive $14 million worth of goods and services that we're looking to contract for. So with the board's consideration, I'd like to work with County Council to have something drafted for the board's consideration at the next Freeholder meeting.
Okay, thank you. Freeholder Christopher D. Rafano from South River.
No report.
Deputy Director, no report. Gee, that's great. I thought you were going to have another half hour. Freeholder Ron G. Rihos from Carteret.
Thank you, Director. As far as Raritan Bay mental health services are concerned on my report, we have an increased demand on center services because people are being impacted from the economy, relating to stress, marital problems, family discord, fatigue, and our mental health services center provides services to all our residents for that. As far as the health department is concerned, our health department and the state of New Jersey are promoting hand washing as one of the first lines of defense in the prevention of communicable diseases, especially right now with influenza. So the campaign is called Wash Your Hands. And it's also being promoted through the schools to teach our kids to wash their hands and take as long as they can to wash their hands. We're also doing an advocate training program for the Rape Crisis Intervention Center, and we're seeking volunteers. Volunteers will attend a 52-hour training program to provide them and help anyone that is sexually abused, and they can call, if anyone's interested, to contact the Rape Crisis Center at 732-321-1189, extension 321. We are conducting an outreach program, education program for the importance of protecting ourselves against radon in every one of the municipalities, of all the 25 municipalities in the county. If anyone has wants any further information, they can get it from the Environmental Division at 732-745-8480. On tonight's agenda, the board will be considering authorizing the acceptance, and I'd like to hear this, acceptance of grant awards in the amount of $169,845 from the Department of Health, State Department of Health and Senior Services for TB control for the calendar year of 2009. As far as the vocational school part of my report, the Academy for Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Technologies, in its December 2008 issue, and for the second consecutive year, U.S. News and World Report recognized Middlesex County Academy for Science and Mathematics and Engineering as one of the best high schools to attend. As far as the Academy of Allied Health and Biomedical Sciences, the Interact Club collected supplies for the Ronald McDonald House in New Brunswick. As far as the East Brunswick campus, on Friday, January 9th, 5 DECA, which is Distributive Education Students of America, competed in the regional conference at the county college, and all 5 of our students took home medals. As far as our Perth Amboy campus, impressive scholarship offers from prominent culinary art institutions are being offered to our seniors enrolled in the program. And as of January 2009, senior students have been offered more than $188,000 in scholarships, which I find very impressive. As far as the Rutgers Extension Services, we provided integrated pest management training to different landscapers and nursery growers throughout the county. And as far as our Earthwise lawn and landscape care, Bill Halubik, our executive director there, provided training for over 100 master gardeners, and continued success in Health and Education Committee. Thank you, Director.
Okay, thank you, Freeholder Rios. Next, we have Freeholder Millie Escott from Piscataway. Millie?
I'm down here.
Okay, good.
But I have no report for tonight, but thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, we're going good. Okay. Our next freeholder from New Brunswick, Blanquita B. Valenti.
I do have a report. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the spoiler.
I want to once more highlight a resolution that's on the agenda tonight. I highlighted it at the agenda session, and it deals with Assembly Bill number 3686, which proposes to transfer the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse and control of the Drug Enforcement Demand Reduction Fund to the New Jersey Department of Human Services. Freeholder Director, I have received numerous letters in the past 2 weeks. 3 mayors of our prominent cities, Mayor Womack from North Brunswick, Mayor McCormick from Woodbridge, Mayor Stoll from East Brunswick, as many municipal alliance coordinators who are opposing this bill. And because of this, I'm asking my Board of Freeholders to join us in opposing the bill and making sure that this is sent to our legislative delegation that represent Middlesex County regardless of party affiliation. I just want to read a little bit of a letter that I received which echoes many of the others. And this is from Luann Benson, the Municipal Alliance Coordinator for North Brunswick Township. And she expresses that, quote, "We have made a most positive impact on the quality of life for our residents with the funds received for Municipal Alliance use. If funding were not available, most of the programs would become unavailable to our community, having a very negative impact on our residents' lives. Within our own Municipal Alliance, we utilize both evidence-based and community programming to help combat the substance abuse problems that plague our state. It is from our grassroots upbringing that the Municipal Alliance realizes the importance of collaboration and the effectiveness of local volunteers. And it has been through their dedication in both the community and evidence-based programming that we have been able to achieve the results that we set forth in our mission. And with the balance of the two, we have been able to accomplish so many important things for our neighborhoods." And she goes on to say that the current system of funding under the Governor's Council for Alcoholism and Drug Abuse has supported the needs of the municipal alliances by allowing each township or each town to make the discretion to choose which programs are most effective for their own communities. And the fear is that if this assembly bill were to pass into law, the funding for the programs would suffer, and that we would fail in our responsibilities to our communities for prevention programming. I want to make sure the public understands that these programs are conducted by a cadre of volunteers, grassroots representatives that are very interested in the lives of the kids. We have a number of our own county employees that are involved in doing this after working hours. And in some towns, they use their staff plus many, many volunteers. So I certainly will join them, and I know that my freeholder colleagues will support this resolution which opposes that bill, and I hope that they hear us in Trenton. There are other counties that have already passed similar resolutions, and we will see what will happen. I also want to report that this past week, the Senator Barbara Buono had a community fair to help people that need help in these dire days of economic need, with a lot of services that are available in Middlesex County. And the Department of Human Services had a number of staff persons that were there to give information and assistance to those that came. I was not able to attend. However, I was this past Saturday at the YWCA in the city of Perth Amboy at their new location, New Brunswick Avenue, and Assemblyman Vaz had a community outreach day, and there were about 20 different tables offering all kinds of help to the community. For example, the Department of Community Affairs had their Division of Housing as well as their Division on Women. The New Jersey COA, the Council on Affordable Housing, was represented. The Women's Center, Jewish Family Vocational Services of Middlesex County was represented. New Jersey Shares, and on and on and on. And it was extremely well attended. There were a lot of people there that were seeking information, and I have to applaud Assemblyman Vaz for the effort to bring to the community knowledge of various instances where they can avail themselves of services. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Well, tonight I don't have a report either, so just to make sure Christopher Fano doesn't get mad at me. Proclamation, commemorative resolution, and correspondence, Madam Secretary Clerk.
We have several this evening. The first is recognizing Reverend Father Stephen Joseph Skinta on the 50th anniversary of his ordination to the priesthood. Next is recognizing the following individuals who have retired from the Middlesex County Adult Correction Center with more than 25 years of service: Captain Mark Powell, Sergeant Carrie Buchanan, Captain Catherine York, Captain Mark Rosowitz, Correction Officer Ashley Isaac, Captain Michael Skarzinski, Lieutenant Robert Teeple, Sergeant Zaba Konya, and Sergeant Jose Maldonado. Next is recognizing Woodbridge Mayor John McCormick, as he's being honored by the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick of Central Jersey. Next is recognizing Dr. Renee Gross and Stuart Feinblatt, as they are this year's recipients of the Chavert Award from the Highland Park Conservative Temple Congregation, Anshe Emeth. Next is recognizing Edgard Barona, outgoing fire chief of the Forts Fire Company No. 1. Next is recognizing Todd Norton of the City of South Amboy, as he has been named Irish Person of the Year for 2009 by the South Amboy Irish American Association. And last is recognizing the following individuals who have been selected by the Ancient Order of Hibernians in connection with South Amboy's St. Patrick's Day Parade: Timothy Armbrecht, flag raiser; William Tierney, Hibernian of the Year; Maureen Sekarik, Irish Woman of the Year; Joe Campbell, Irishman of the Year; Thomas J. Noble, Deputy Grand Marshal; and John M. Donnelly, Grand Marshal.
Thank you, Margaret. Do I need a motion to adopt the commendatory resolutions?
Motion.
Motion by Rufano, second by Carol Barrett. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett,
Yes.
Freeholder Polos,
Yes.
Freeholder Rufano,
Yes.
Freeholder Rios,
Yes.
Freeholder Scott,
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti,
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Madam Clerk, please read the correspondence.
Busy tonight. We have a public notice from Jersey Central Power and Light Company, notice of proposed rate increase in connection with proposed economic stimulus infrastructure investment program, and notice of public hearings thereon. Public hearings are scheduled for March 16th in Freehold Township, March 17th in Ocean Township Administration Building, and March 19th at the Morris County Administration Building. A resolution from the Freeholders of Atlantic County requesting the state legislation be enacted regarding general assistance jurisdictions. A resolution from the County of Monmouth Board of Freeholders opposing legislation that would require deferral of $500 million in pension payments. A resolution from, actually two resolutions, from the Somerset County Board of Freeholders supporting Assembly Bill Number 139, amending NJS 2C43-10 and requiring reimbursement to the county for the cost of housing state-sentenced prisoners in county correctional facilities. And also from Somerset County, a resolution opposing proposed legislation that would require deferral of $500 million in pension payments. A resolution from the Borough of Bound Brook, entitled "A Resolution of the Borough of Bound Brook Encouraging Support for Federal Stimulus Funding for the Green Brook Flood Control Project." A copy of the preliminary equalization table for the County of Middlesex for 2009. Minutes of the Middlesex County Planning Board meeting held February 10th. Minutes of the Board of Trustees of Middlesex County College meeting held January 30th. Minutes of the Solid Waste Advisory Council meeting held February 10th. Monthly report of investments from the county treasurer for the month of February. And that's it for the regular correspondence.
Okay. Do we have any of the extra correspondence come in?
Yes, there is a letter from Old Bridge Mayor James Phillips regarding the Whitney Estate property. This property is adjacent to the Cottrell Farm in Old Bridge, and the mayor has been informed that the owner is interested in selling this undeveloped land and of 36.5 acres, and Mayor Phillips is asking the Open Space Committee to add the Whitney Estate property to Old Bridge Township's application for the Cottrell property.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I want to refer that to the Open Space Committee, please. And the rest of the commendatory resolutions, we need a motion to accept the correspondence.
So moved.
So move. Second by Rufano. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett,
Yes.
Freeholder Polos,
Yes.
Freeholder Rufano,
Yes.
Freeholder Rios,
Yes.
Freeholder Scott,
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti,
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Okay. Now, is there a motion to accept the minutes of the February 5th and 19th, 2009 Freeholder meetings?
Motion.
Motion by Rafano.
Second.
Second by Carol Barrett.
I want to make a correction. Freeholder Director, in my report, I don't know whether I said it or not, but it had to do, I think it was the last minutes that we received, I'm sorry, Ms. Pemberton, that people who are in transitional shelters are considered homeless, and I think that the minutes said they were not. So whether
I'll
I
make
made a
that-
mistake or not.
I'll make that correction.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that the record is straight. People who in shelters, transitional shelters, are considered homeless.
Okay, Blanquita, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We need a motion to accept the minutes of
Motion.
February 9th and 5th and 19th Freeholder meeting. Motion by
already did.
Rafano, second
Second.
by Carol Barrett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Are there any resolutions to be amended?
There are none.
Are there any resolutions to be added?
There are none.
Are there any resolutions to be held?
None.
Are there any resolutions to be voided?
There are none.
Okay, I will open the meeting to the public to discuss on any resolution on the agenda. Anybody from the public would like to discuss the resolution on the agenda? Any resolution?
Motion to close.
Motion to close,
Second.
Rafano. Second by Ron Rehos. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Polos.
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Do any freeholders have any resolution they wish to remove from the consent agenda and vote separately on it?
I have one, Freeholder Director. It's Resolution 09-386 on page 7 of the agenda.
09386?
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I have three.
Yes, sir. Freeholder Rafano?
09329, 09330, and 09380.
Okay. Mr. Kelso?
Yes, Freeholder Director, a motion would be in order to adopt a consent agenda consisting of resolution numbers 09325 through 09395, including resolution number 09134, which was previously held, and excluding resolution 09325, which was this evening previously voted upon, and also excluding resolutions 09386, 09329, 09330, and 09380 to be voted upon separately.
Okay, I need a second on the motion. Moved by
Sec-
Rafano. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Polos.
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes, okay.
Now, Freeholder Director, motion would be in order to adopt the resolution which was excluded by Freeholder Valenti, and that's Resolution 09386.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by
Second.
Rafano, second by Rios. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Polos.
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano.
Yes.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Present not voting.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes.
And Freeholder Director, finally, a motion would be in order to adopt resolutions 09329, 09330, and 09380, which were removed by Freeholder Rafano.
Okay. Need a motion.
Motion.
Motion by Barrett, second by Rios. Roll call vote.
Freeholder Barrett.
Yes.
Freeholder Polos.
Yes.
Freeholder Rafano.
Present not voting.
Freeholder Rios.
Yes.
Freeholder Scott.
Yes.
Freeholder Valenti.
Yes.
Freeholder Director Delina.
Yes. Okay, at this time, I will open the floor to the public on any resolution. Yes, sir.
No.
No.
Open to the public.
No, it's
It's
open.
open to the public. Yeah. You have 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Yes.
Ready, begin. I heard the good news today on News 12 New Jersey. Morristown Mayor Donald Crescitello has entered into an agreement with Homeland Security for Section 287 to deputize local law enforcement officers in Morristown to enforce the federal immigration laws. I think that's a very good step, and I'm hoping that they continue the contract here in this county as the beginning of obtaining this kind of approval around here. I believe we have a population issue. These people are not here with permission, and we need to keep track of the people who are coming in here from other countries. We have national security issues. The CIA director around March of last year warned a university in Virginia that immigration overpopulation is destabilizing countries and represents a national security challenge here in this country. We need to enforce these immigration laws through a policy known as attrition through enforcement. I am a member of NJ Citizens for ImmigrationControl.com. And another issue I wanted to bring up is this this property, the farm, this wetlands. We need to have enough food, because the way our economy is going, we might end up to be in a WIEMAR republic, Weimar Republic. And if we don't have enough food, then we don't have enough sustenance. We need more farms in New Jersey. We need to have enough food. And the more population, the more need for food. I don't trust the FEMA. I heard that FEMA was created by CIA drug money. And as I said last November, in an article in NaplesNews.com, the commissioner of Collier County, Florida, noted that illegal immigration costs the county about $77 million each year. That county, one county in Florida. Now, I asked this a few months ago, and the gentleman here, one of the freeholders, said $50. How much are illegal aliens costing the county? And once an individual said $50, and afterwards he told me $50 a head in jail, illegal immigrant detainees. $50 a head, and he told me 200 to 300 prisoners. Let's say they're 200. That's $50 times 200 is $10,000 a day, times 30 is $300,000 a month, times 12 is $3,600,000. That's just to incarcerate them. The Federation for American Immigration Reform claims that to give them hospital costs, schooling, and the incarceration costs New Jerseyites over, I don't know how many billions, $2 billion a year. And it's costing us too much. And this is nothing personal about these people. It's just that we need to deal with the population. That's, I believe, why immigration laws are here. Back 50 years ago, we didn't have the population. Yeah, maybe your parents came in here, and they came in through that island near New York. But now we have many more people we need to deal with. And it's becoming a population crisis. And we need to deal with the population.
Okay, good. Anybody else like to speak? The public, yes.
Good evening. My name is Manije Sabah. I'm resident of Somerset, New Jersey. I stand before you with mixed emotion tonight. I wanted first to thank you for support of open space and sustainable environment. It was great to see, after coming here for months and months, to ask for justice for detainees, at least to hear something good that this county is doing. Thank you for your vote tonight. I also stand here for Ms. X and Mr. X, who are in detention, and maybe about 200 of them. I heard Mr. Grafano saying that in the process of cost saving and conservation of energy, you said that you are reducing the energy in detention centers. Detention centers Detention centers are special situation. Have you been given due consideration to people who are in detention centers? When I reduce the thermostat in my house, I put more clothing on in order to compensate for the difference. But people in detention, if you are reducing energy use in detention center, have you made consideration, and what are they?
I didn't say that we were reducing the heat at the Adult Correction Center. I said that Freeholders had pushed for an energy audit of all our facilities to see what we can save in our energy consumption. I also mentioned that we were looking at different sources or ways to generate power for our utilities, whether it be solar panels or something like that along those lines. We didn't say anything about turning the thermostat down at the jail.
Thank you for answering this. I appreciate it. But in the meantime, in your process of assessment, I would appreciate and I would like to ask you to make special consideration for people who are in detention and they don't have any possibility of warming themselves up if one of the decisions is to lower the heating system, the heat in the detention center. Thank you very much for that. The other thing, Chairman Delano, you said that Middlesex County is the best county in the country. Who has made that determination? What study, what group has said that? I would like you to underline that. From my perspective, standing here, standing for detainees in Middlesex County that are held under inhumane, illegal, un-American conditions for months after months after months with no representation, no visitation. One of them died 2 years ago, and not proper health care. How could you claim to be the best county in this country? Was this the same thing happening in 20s and 30s in fascist Germany? We need to be conscious of what we are doing, what we are supporting. This county is participating in an American extrajudicial behavior that the government of the United States has been involved in. We have asked you to close this place. Money is not everything. We cannot justify every action because we need money. You would not justify somebody, a shoplifter, because they didn't have money for food, so they picked up something from the store. We cannot justify holding people without any due process of law in the United States. This is a country of law, and you are participating in that. Maybe you don't realize it, but you are becoming good Germans. Don't become a good German. We cannot do that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marion Monk. Most of you know me by now. And you also know that I usually bring you some reading material, and I've done it again. I'm sorry if there's one short, but maybe you can share. Last meeting, we brought a young man, a writer, a poet, a journalist here, a young man from Nepal. He came to this country on a multi-entry visa. He was legal. He had been here before. He wanted to tell you a lot of things. We had dinner with him beforehand. He didn't tell you very much because when he started to talk about being a detainee at Middlesex, he's passed out. So he cut it short. But I would like to speak for him. On February 13th, the Star-Ledger did an article on this young man and his wife. And maybe some of you saw it. It was the love story of the day. And I'm going to try to, most of you have a copy now. I'm going to try to read this very quickly so that the audience also will hear about this. When I read it, Actually, I cry, I have to tell you. Detainee and his dearest Mary, that's his wife now, find happiness. Padreep Thapa bounded off the plane, clutching his 7 books and his journalistic credentials, his heart filled with anticipation and pride. So when immigration officers at Newark Liberty International Airport refused him entry, slapped him in handcuffs and shackles, and locked him in a prison-like building with 300 other immigrants, he assumed it was all a huge mistake. This was Thapa's 3rd visit to America, and the 31-year-old Nepalese poet from Nepal had won wide acclaim for his writings about his country's politics and culture. His passport and visa were in order. He hadn't committed any crime. He had friends and a place to stay. If anything, Thapa submitted to handcuffs and donned the drab gray prison uniform with a swelling sense of pride, believe it or not. So this was the other face of America, he thought, where they imprison writers just like authorities did during the Civil War in Nepal. He figured he'd be released soon enough, and then he would write about his experience. What were a few nights behind bars for the biggest scoop of his life? But as nights turned into weeks and weeks into months, the loneliness, monotony, and monstrous sense of injustice began to wear the poet down. Immigration officials accused him of violating his visitor visa by planning to sell his books, something Thapa never crossed his mind. By the way, they took his books. These were his only copies, his life's work, his possessions, and refused to return them until he agreed to translate every word, which makes me wonder, because why would one ask someone who was not trusted to translate books and material from a language that nobody understood? He could have written anything. Very Kafkaesque. And so he waited for his case to be decided, pining for his family, his books, for fresh air, to be addressed by his own name, not just his bunk number. It was as if he didn't exist, Thapa thought, as if all his accomplishments did not exist. And then, after 7 months of imprisonment, he began to exist like never before. A woman walked into his life. She had short white hair and soft white skin and blue eyes that sparkled with intelligence and mirth. She wore colorful skirts and blouses and jewelry, and she brought bouquets of roses from her garden. She laughed and sang, and her joyful presence lit up the cold, sterile visitor's room, where a grimy glass partition separates the imprisoned from the free, and only communication between the two by phone. Though he couldn't smell the flowers or touch her hand, though cameras bored down from every corner, recording every movement, though their conversations were monitored by guards, the prisoner poet and his unlikely visitor fell deeply and impossibly in love.
Time.
Well, I hope you'll continue to read this, because he also ended up at Middlesex and he ended up at Passaic, and it was a nightmare that he will never recover from. Thank you for your time. You can add this one.
Good evening, Freeholders. I come to you tonight not as Jeanette Gabriel from New Jersey Civil Rights Defense Committee, but as prisoner 4120 at Guantanamo Bay. The reason that we all have on orange jumpsuits tonight is because these orange jumpsuits have become a symbol of shame for the United States throughout the world. These orange jumpsuits represent the brutality of the United States and the destruction of basic civil rights and liberties. They represent the destruction of the international reputation of the United States as representing a democratic nation that believes in good and upholds traditions of democracy and freedom. These orange jumpsuits represent the new America, the America that still remains after the Bush years, still remains in our county jails throughout the United States. And we have taken on to represent the detainees and their voices, and they send us petitions and letters and beg us to help their voices be heard. And that is what we are doing here tonight, as we do every 2 weeks, and have since May of 2008, and will continue to do so until you terminate the unconstitutional contract at Middlesex County Jail. The reason that we are linking Guantanamo to the immigrant detainees in Middlesex County Jail is because any time you detain someone and deny them access to representation, you are opening the door to physical and emotional abuse. There is no such thing as good detention. Detention, by the very basis of its being, breeds abuse. We hear reports all the time of guard brutality in detention centers throughout New Jersey. The report that we issued about detainee conditions in New Jersey speaks specifically about issues of brutality at Middlesex County Jail. It is endemic in the detention system. When people have no access to their families, their communities, their attorneys, when they're in 23-hour lockdowns, and we are systematically denied visitation as the community, then abuse will happen. The stories from Guantanamo are beginning to leak out into the public throughout the world, just as the stories of abuse inside the detention centers in New Jersey are beginning to leak out into the world. We are having a mass meeting in Highland Park with released detainees and their family members to discuss these abuses on March 31st. I'd like to invite all of you and the community to attend. We will listen to what the detainees have to say about what they face inside Middlesex, Hudson, Essex, and all the other immigrant detention centers right here in New Jersey. We are all complicit in this abuse. The United States government has admitted that they torture people at Guantanamo. As the detainees' stories come out over and over and over again, there's too much consistency to believe that they're not telling the truth. Detainees talk about being hung up for long periods of time. Doctors come in to check on them, not to make sure that they're okay, but just to check their heartbeat so that they can be tortured further. I want to share a few of these brief stories of the type of torture that goes on at the hands of the United States inside secret prisons and detention centers throughout the world, so that we can come to terms with what we're responsible for as a people and the type of practices that we're opening the door to carrying out at Middlesex County Jail. One detainee was held in Guantanamo, Binyan Mohammed, from February 24th, 2009. There was a feature article in the Telegraph paper in the United Kingdom. It is still difficult for me to believe that I was abducted, hauled from one country to the next, and tortured in medieval ways, all orchestrated by the United States government. While I want to recover and put it as far in the past as I can, I know I have an obligation to the people who still remain in those torture chambers. My own despair was greatest when I thought that everyone had abandoned me. I have a duty to make sure that nobody else is forgotten. Over and over and over, immigrant detainees talk about the isolation, the sense that society has forgotten them, and the visitation policy that you all uphold at Middlesex County Jail contributes to that extreme sense of isolation and lack of contact with attorneys and the community. When Obama came in as the president, at least 20% of the Guantanamo Bay detainees responded by going out on a hunger strike, protesting to the world the type of horrendous conditions that detainees face every day. A detainee who was picked up at the age of 19 and spent 5 years in detention in shadow prison systems throughout the world, including Guantanamo, I'll just finish the sentence, talked about being beaten, his head held underwater, electric shocks hung from the ceiling. That is what you are all contributing to, a system of torture and abuse.
Good evening, my name is Nancy Olszewski, and I'm a resident of New Brunswick. You've probably seen me before, but tonight I'm representing a detainee from Guantanamo 1121, if such a detainee exists. Like Jeanette said, the word of what torture in Guantanamo is getting out. Detainees are publishing poems. In fact, some have already been published, at least a year. And it's not only the detainees at Guantanamo who are suffering, it's it's all the immigrant detainees. And none of them or most of them haven't committed crimes or did commit crimes, but they long since did time. And the only crime they might have committed was not filling out a form right or in the right language, which could have been solved easier by having agents help them out or do it for them like they do with income tax. And speaking of taxes, these ATs also pay taxes. The sales tax, and even if they don't own property and live in an apartment, they help the landlord pay his property tax. So there's really not that so many people that they have to be detained. Wasn't there a population explosion around in the middle of the 19th century or around the beginning of the last century? Certainly, there was no detention then. There was only at the beginning of the last century, and speeded by September 11th. Only a few detainees from Guantanamo have been charged with crimes, and none of the others have been charged, and there are millions of them. Thank you.
Dan Cummings, Piscataway. Just a technical or administrative question. Why was the public session allotted time per speaker cut from 10 minutes to 5 minutes? Nothing?
The administrative code was amended in the beginning of the year during reorganization to be in line consistent with other counties and municipalities.
Do you think it's better if people speak less time?
But in Middlesex County, speakers are able to speak during multiple sessions. They can speak during resolutions for 5 minutes, they can speak in the general public session for 5 minutes, and they can speak on an unlimited time basis on any ordinance.
Okay, so you think it's better that people get 5 minutes to speak during the open discussion than 10 minutes to speak?
It's consistent with other public bodies throughout the state, and everyone is afforded an opportunity to speak and allows everyone a chance to speak.
If other communities went to like just a minute or 30 seconds, just so you guys would be within code, would you go down to that, or?
That's a rhetorical question. I think the board is currently satisfied.
Okay, that's fine.
Public to speak.
Okay. First of all, I'm here in opposition to the, I'm going to just call it what it is, an internment camp in North Brunswick. The reason I call it internment camp and not a detention center, first of all, I'm a teacher. I had detention duty today, and nobody was under a 23-hour lockdown during that. Also, internment camp is defined as a prison-like facility used during a time of war. We're at least engaged in 2 wars, maybe more, depending on who you ask. So I think internment camp is actually the right word. If I, as a constituent of Middlesex County, called you up from the internment camp or detention center in North Brunswick and said that I had been whisked away in the middle of the night, taken from my family, and was not given free access to a lawyer and had committed no crime and was charged with no crime, and if I called you and asked you for help, would you help me? Anybody? No one would help me? Would you?
Sir, you can continue to speak. The board is not obligated to answer your rhetorical questions.
Okay. So I guess the answer maybe would be yes. I would hope so. So why are you letting this internment camp exist? I mean, you're funding what amounts to degrading, abusive conditions for people who have not committed a crime, have not committed a crime, have not committed a crime. Shame on you. I'm sorry, but shame on you. Question about the budget real quick. What percentage or how much of the budget was from grants? Anybody?
we have a public hearing on March April 14th.
I believe 20,
Okay, we'll wait on that one then.
I believe the numbers, we have about 23 million now.
The grants,
while he's rifling through that, I'm not sure of the answer to this question. Are prisoners and detainees kept under the same conditions? The warden's right here. I'll ask him. The warden's not here. Okay, will one of you be able to answer it? You guys don't answer questions from the public, I understand.
What was the question here?
You guys, are prisoners and detainees kept under the same conditions?
Yes, they are,
Yeah. Why?
because they are prisoners, all of them.
They're prisoners?
Yes.
You meaning they've committed a crime?
Yes.
What crime is that? Can you tell me?
I've answered your question.
For purposes of the record, let me try to clarify something for you, because I think over the last several meetings when these statements have been made, I think it's been somewhat misleading. As of yesterday, the population of detainees numbered 151.
Okay.
Of those 151 detainees, only 8 are held as a result of violations of immigration laws. The balance of those detainees have all been convicted of crimes. 77 of the people of which have been convicted of multiple crimes, 75 of which have served state prison time. Crimes including distribution of drugs, criminal mischief, sexual assault, registered sex offenders. We have 92 people for possession of drugs and narcotics and distribution of same, 46 assaults, 35 burglaries, and the list goes on and on. Although there are individual detainees who are being held on immigration laws, only 8 are only being held because of immigration.
Question. You just said that they've been convicted of a
Time
crime.
has expired.
You said they've been convicted of a crime. Did they serve their sentence for that conviction, or are they serving it right now? They might have served their sentence already, and they might be a convict, but you still can't pick them up off the street.
They're subject to deportation by the federal government as a result of their criminal activity, and are being held pending that disposition.
Okay.
to answer your question, we have in the budget $19,372,581 in grants.
Thank you.
Out of a total gross budget of $392,136,000.
Thank you, sir.
Did a good job.
Hello, my name is Jean Stockdale. I live in Highland Park. I'm here because I believe that you, our chosen freeholders, do not personally condone ICE's position that non-citizens who are in our country and in our county are less than human and do not rate civil rights. I believe that you realize ICE operates under Bush administration policy memos that literally capitalized on fear of terrorism by turning it into a money-making proposition for the privately owned, for-profit corrections industry and its biggest shareholders, former members of the Department of Defense. I believe that you are aware of recent articles on the front page of the New York Times and recent stories on NPR that expose immigrant detention system as a miscarriage of justice, a huge waste of tax dollars, and a secretive subverting of the intentions of Congress when it created the Department of Homeland Security, the parent agency of ICE. And by the way, sir, the New York Times article said that only 9% of all immigrant detainees have any criminal charges pending against them. I will be happy to furnish you with a copy of that. I believe that you understand that your $3.5 million net profit contract pays Middlesex County to go along with ICE operations in which thousands of law-abiding, hardworking, tax-paying residents have been rounded up and tossed into the black hole of our nation's immigrant detention system to be no longer treated as persons, but as inventory to be warehoused, transferred from county jails to federal detention centers and back again to county jails, so that these facilities can keep their numbers up and meet their quotas in their contracts. Not since bounty hunters rode horseback through Middlesex County, capturing fugitive slaves as well as capturing freed blacks who could fetch the same price, has our district willingly participated in an initiative to violate the human rights of victims who are mostly poor and mostly people of color, who don't know any lawyers and don't have any money for lawyers, who aren't in a position to organize, and if they try, they are punitively transferred to jails far away from their families and their lawyers. And I'm wondering how many detainees were transferred out within a few days of the death in the Middlesex County Jail. I believe you know that the system you are participating in tears parents from their American citizen children, cuts breadwinning spouses out of their families, leaving struggling partners to single parent in broken homes, undermines the community safety net, replacing it with fear and isolation, and sets the stage for xenophobia and hate crimes. I believe that you freeholders privately agree that our nation's treatment of immigrant detainees is immoral, and you would like to find some way to end your participation in this oppression. Do you remember just before the Berlin Wall fell, when Soviet communism had become so dysfunctional that it was empty of meaning on the inside, but it still had a hardened outer shell of a police state? Until a handful of conductors on outbound trains from East Germany decided to stop arresting people who had boarded without permission to cross into a free country. The simple, local, moral action of these conductors started a chain reaction of sanity to replace insanity. And within a few weeks, ordinary people started to dismantle the Berlin Wall, and ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at them for doing it. Can you see your way clear to be like that handful of train conductors? Just stop participating. You could go release some immigrant detainees tonight as soon as this meeting is over, at least 8 of them, since they are not criminals and have no criminal charges pending against them. Or you could issue a directive that Middlesex County Jail will no longer accept non-criminal detainees after today's date. And if you feel unable to do this now, you could at least resolve to not transfer anyone else away from their loved ones. You could resolve to allow contact visitation, as is done in Hudson County Jail, because there is no reason why babies and children should be kept from physical contact with their parents, and there is not much sadder than listening to their distress when they can see mommy through the plexiglass and can't understand why she can't just come back home where she belongs and why she can't pick them up and hold them. I just have a couple more sentences if I could finish. You could decide that detainees could receive visitors in all daytime and evening hours, just like in a hospital, and that the visitors wouldn't have to be on any approved list or know the person's alien number to come and see a detainee. You could resolve to exert your moral authority, stand up and illustrate that you don't wish to collude in the oppression of immigrants, and show other counties that they don't have to either. Stand up and tell the federal government that our county needs that $3.5 million of net profit to provide needed and useful services, but don't pay us to be cogs in a machine of immigrant detention that ultimately delivers huge profits to the shareholders of Corrections Corporation of America, and in the process creates misery and family destruction across Middlesex County. Thank you.
Hi, Ann Barron, Highland Park. I have some questions about the criminal convictions. I did put in a request for a list of all the charges that are currently pending or had been served, the charges that were listed for the people who are under the ICE contract. Now, from what I understand, we don't really have an ICE contract. We have a federal marshal contract.
That is the form of contract that ICE uses for purposes of enforcing the contract provisions that we have.
So you said 100.
Answered that for you before.
Right, and so you said the 158 or something like that?
51.
That's strictly the people there who are here under the ICE? Or are you mixing the ICE with the?
No, I'm sorry. As of 2 days ago, there were 151 detainees under the ICE contract.
So these aren't the federal marshal, these are the ICE detainees?
It's the same thing, ma'am. It's the
But
same.
some of the federal marshal ones, from what I understand, aren't necessarily people who are going to deportation afterwards.
Again, we are a holding facility. We hold under the federal marshal's contract. We have 151 of those detainees that we're holding. That's what we know.
Both for federal marshals and for ICE?
Yes.
So how many do you know are being held for deportation hearings, which is ICE only?
According to the information that we have, there are 8 individuals that are being held for violation of immigration laws. The rest are held as a result of having participated in criminal activity for which they have been convicted and sentenced and are awaiting disposition by the federal government, which we assume is deportation, as a result of their criminal activity in this country.
It's a deportation hearing they're awaiting?
Yes.
And they have finished their previous...
Well, I'll say deportation proceedings.
Mhm. And they finished their conviction, whatever it was?
In some cases, yes. In other cases, no. Some are pending disposition of their charges. Some are pending disposition of being housed as a result of convictions. It's not all just one category.
Right, that's what I understand. That's what I'm trying to get straightened up. So I did ask for a list of the charges that were pending against those who are here under the federal marshal.
Under the federal law, we cannot provide to you the names of individuals and what they are either charged with, what they were convicted of, or what they served time for. It is specifically a violation of the law to do that.
That's the federal code.
Correct.
And all I asked for was a list of the charges. I didn't ask for the names. I don't need to know the names. I just wanted to know the list of the charges and whether the charges had actually been, whether they'd been convicted of the charges and finished their charges, or if they were still serving out their conviction. That's all.
Can I just clarify, Dan? Could you just tell me when that particular request was made? I have a number of the requests.
It was at this last meeting, and I got a response in the mail from Margaret saying that you couldn't give me the charges under code something or other. See, the thing that I'm having trouble with this.
Correct. No, I have the letter. This was interpreted to mean you wanted the individuals and what the charges were.
No, I just said list of the
If you're telling
charges.
us you're asking for just what the charges were,
Basically what you read tonight would be great. We did meet at one point with Mexican consulate. They had met at that point. There were a number of Mexican nationals who were being detained at the prison, at the jail here. And when we met with the Mexican consulate, they had met with, I'll have to refresh my memory, something like 28 that they had met with. Of the 28 of their Mexican nationals they met with in the jail here, only one had any prior conviction that wasn't due to the fact that they had overstayed their initial documentation. Only one out of the 28. So I have real concerns over whether these are criminals, that we have people that are being detained, or whether this is what we call low-lying fruit. As people mentioned earlier in the hearings tonight, in their statements tonight, a lot of the people being picked up are not serious criminals. When they passed the 1996 law, it was meant to pick up serious criminals. But all around the country now, both elected officials and advocates are becoming aware that the people being picked up are people who are just going about their normal day. I did a visitation to the Hill, to Congress, on Tuesday with people whose family members were in the process of deportation hearings. And some of the stories they had to tell about how their friends got picked up or their family members got picked up don't match any of these criminal kind of charges that we heard.
Time.
So I'll come back and talk about this at the next, but thank you.
Good afternoon, Freeholders. Cedric Goodman, New Brunswick, New Jersey. I'm just here to speak or to add my voice or my concern to some of the issues that the members here have concerning the detainees. I'm not in support or against their cause right now. I haven't had all the details explained to me. However, I will let you know that personally, I have had an experience with our Middlesex County Correctional Facility about 15 years ago. I had a ticket, and the warrant was out. I had no clue there was a warrant out, and I was pulled over and arrested and taken directly to the jail. I don't do jail. I don't do courts if I can help it. I pay it online, or I'll satisfy it as expediently as I can. However, the experience, though, taught me something about the judicial system. And it was not until I was booked, held, I didn't even make it to the jail cell. I was posted out. I made my phone call and I was out of there. But just the traumatical experience that I experienced, whereas though my communication to the outside world was cut off, bothered me so much. I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is the way it is. And of course, until people come out, until things get out into the public, one never knows what goes on in those conditions. I'm sorry that the warden is not here, because I met him. He's a nice gentleman. I'd like to speak to him about some other issues concerning the jails. But we have a lot of advocates and a lot of organizations who are also supporting reform in not only the jail system, but other areas in our county government. So we'll address that as time permits. But 23 hours lockdown is, to me personally, inhumane. That is totally inhumane. But it's not happening only in Middlesex County. It's happening all over the country. In other places such as D.C., Atlanta, places like that, where there is a heavy concentration of redevelopment and urban renewal taking place. The cities now have become primary real estate for many people. With that in mind, there are policies now to eradicate those areas, those urban areas, and redevelop those areas. So that means that they have to clean or sweep the streets. And people who are in the way of this development or the developers' projects have to be removed. And they have ordinances. Our city has ordinances. I don't know if they're being enforced, however, but ordinances are being enforced all over the country to eradicate certain areas, downtown areas. But again, like I said, I wanted to just share my experience with the judicial system out there in Middlesex County Correctional Facility, and hope that someone can look into, address, evaluate whether or not there is some reform or some changes that need to take place. I'm not in a position to discuss what financial impact it will have on the county. That's not my area. However, I just wanted to share my experience that there is some problems out there. There are some problems within our facilities here that we have to address, and I hope that you guys will consider bringing it up or addressing it at a future date. Thank you.
Karina Wilkinson, Highland Park. I was just wondering if I could follow up from the last meeting about whether Council Kelso resubmitted the FOIA request to ICE concerning releasing to the public information about the death last year.
I'm not sure what you're asking from the last meeting. As I indicated at the last meeting, we provided under Oprah all of the records with regard to his death, his autopsy report, and medical records from the facility.
Yeah, and
But
you had
what
told
the
me that you were
federal-
denied by ICE, and you said you would resubmit the FOIA.
Right. What the federal government denied was the release of their report.
Right. Is there any portion, you said you would resubmit a FOIA to see if any portions of
I
that
thought what
report.
I said was you can make the request through the federal open.
Oh, I have to do the FOIA, you're not doing the FOIA.
We already asked and they denied.
And I
you
asked
as a
if you were
you as a
doing it
private-
after the Obama's directive on FOIA to the federal government, and you said you would resubmit it.
I don't recall that, frankly, but if that's what you're requesting, I have no problem asking them to do it. I'll send it out tomorrow. But I do
Okay.
suggest, if your interest is really to get the record, you might have a better opportunity to do it to ask directly under the Freedom of Information Act.
You
Because,
think
again,
I'll
they've
have better
already
luck
denied
than
us
you will?
once. I'm sorry?
You'll think I'll have better luck than you will?
Well, so far, they've told us no. So to ask again, I can't give them a better reason other than
Okay.
use the
Well,
last report.
my understanding was you were going to resubmit that, but
I-
if you want...
Again, I apologize. I don't recall making that commitment. I'll do it. I don't have any problem asking to do it
Okay,
again.
maybe both avenues would work better. And
Pardon me?
maybe both avenues, you're resubmitting it, my
It's possible.
resubmitting? Okay, thank you. Was there any further information regarding the discrepancy in the date of the death by the Center for
I
Family
don't-
Guidance?
In the records that I reviewed after you said that, I don't see a discrepancy, so I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to as the
The
discrepancy.
Medical Audit Committee reports?
From what I see, that the individual was transported on February 28th to St. Peter's Hospital and died in the hospital March 2nd. So I don't know where the
Because
discrepancy...
the Audit Committee statistical report to the warden had the date having occurred in February.
February the 28th was when the individual was
They said,
transported.
it's a statistical report. It says how many deaths occurred in February, how many occurred in March. It said 1 death occurred in February, 0 occurred in March.
Right, that was a compilation of the information that I think was given to us, and I think what you might have done was indicated February was our last contact with the individual, and that the death actually occurred in March. So it was an error, I assume, in transposing what that was. The
Okay,
death
so-
actually occurred in March 2nd, not February 28th.
Okay, so,
Not
I
in
mean,
our
one of the things we're interested in is having review and oversight of the quality assurance that you're getting out of the private contractor that is contracted with the county, and that has discrepancies in their reporting on the date of these kinds of incidents. And there's been a discrepancy in what was released into the press about when he first started complaining about his lung problems or chest pain. And in the morbidity and mortality report, it says February 21st. The reporters were told February 29th. And, I mean, this kind of discrepancy is the kind of thing that gives us pause, given that the 90 detainees are writing out and saying that his treatment had been delayed.
Well, ma'am, again, you've requested the information. We provided you the actual medical records that were kept by CFG as the actual documents as it was taking place.
The morbidity report was
to-
March 6th,
When
so
they
they had 4
provided
days to think
information
about
to
it.
the press, or if you asked and there was a compilation done and there was an error in that, that doesn't mean there's an error in the actual records.
Okay, yeah, I understand
provided
that.
the actual records to you.
That's why I want the FOIA for the ICE investigation, because they seem to be the only one who
And
investigated.
again,
I think I'm running out of
we'd love to
time,
give it
though.
to you if
So
we
I'd
could.
love to go over the number you have of how many of those 151 that you're saying was the count 2 days ago have misdemeanor charges. You're saying 8 have no charge at all other than the administrative charge?
Well, they have charges, but they're the immigration charges.
8 have immigration charges?
Correct.
And,
Eight related
and I'm
to a
assuming-
violation of immigration laws.
and I'm assuming something like 75 have prior misdemeanors?
No, 75, what I said was over
I know what you said,
75
I'm
did time in New Jersey State Prison.
And that would not be a misdemeanor charge?
not be.
So the remaining 75 or so would have a misdemeanor charge?
Does not mean they're misdemeanors.
What does it mean?
It means they didn't serve their time in state prison. They did time in federal prison. They've done time in county jails. That does not mean they're
So
misdemeanors.
how many had misdemeanors, is my question.
Well, it's not listed as a misdemeanor. It's listed by the actual charge.
Oh,
So,
that's
for
why we
example,
wanted
you
to
have
see
a
the
charge for
charges, to
theft.
see.
Theft can be 4th degree, 3rd degree, 2nd degree, 1st degree.
So you don't have can you get us a breakdown of how many are misdemeanors and how many are felonies?
What was asked, and I've had clarification, was a listing of the charges. We will give you a listing of the charges, not by individual, which is not permitted under federal law, and we will tell you based on the information that we have from the database.
So does that mean if someone has 2 different felony charges against him, you're not going to break it down by saying one person had this charge, one person had that
No,
charge without giving us
no.
names?
We will give it to you by individual charge,
All right, so
but we won't identify the
so
individual.
we'll be receiving that?
Yes.
And we'll have to you'll list 1st degree and 2nd degree so we can tell whether it's
No,
misdemeanor or
I'm
not?
not going to go back and research what the charge was. I will tell you if the database says distribution CDS, assault with a weapon, importing CDS, 12 months in federal prison, possession of CDS, 5 years probation, I will allow you the opportunity to ask a lawyer whether that's a misdemeanor, a felony, 1st degree, 2nd degree. We're not going to go back and do
Okay,
more
but you're-
research. We'll
right.
give you the information we have.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Kathleen Feeney. I did come and speak last month about the detention contract in the hopes that it would end. Since I came here and spoke last month about what I knew about my neighbors being raided and picked up in the middle of the night, nothing short of domestic terrorism. Kids hear this from their beds, 2-year-olds, 6-year-olds, the two ICE cops discussing whether they're going to take both mom and dad or just bracelet mom and take dad. Seem to be willing to leave kids unsupervised in apartments to just take both parents. It's ruthless. And the spread of domestic terrorism and the specter of people coming into your home when you haven't committed a crime affects us all. Affects us all. These are people who have not committed a crime. And it pains me very much to hear you sit there and just be satisfied to believe that these people are all criminals or have all committed a crime, and so you can go home and sleep easy. I don't sleep easy at night because I've known some, and they're not criminals. And I went to Elizabeth Detention Center, and I spoke with 2 men who are not criminals. Businessmen. One guy worked in a 3M warehouse. I mean, I don't want to give up identities here. I really don't want to get people in trouble for talking about what happened. But long time, people invested in the community with mortgages, with a right to be here. Picked up and held indefinitely. No clue about what's going to happen to them. They complain that they are cold. They complain that the meals they are served, a small piece of fish and some steamed vegetables, healthy, is about the portion you would give a 1st or 2nd grader at school. So they're hungry. And the only way they can get food so they're not hungry is to use the commissary, which is junk food. And their families have to fund that, and they have to buy this junk food with their family's money. Now, it costs their families $95 to get from where they live to this remote detention center in Elizabeth, where they're held. So the family may spend all the excess money they have for that month to get there for a visit, only to learn that the prisoner has been moved. Without reason, they're transferred from county to county. We really believe that there's a financial motive in that there's an incentive, that the counties are paid per bed count per prisoner, and they're kind of sharing. So the moving around has nothing to do with any kind of danger presented by these people. They're cold. They are hungry. They have committed no crime. This really needs to be investigated. I don't know how many of you are lawyers, but I've been a lawyer for quite a while, and I've sat in courts. And for years, these poor guys pled out to whatever they were charged with. And they were never advised that it might affect your immigration status, that what you do here today with your free lawyer that we've appointed for you, with your limited understanding through an interpreter, and in your fear about whether you shoplifted or not, you just go ahead and plead. None of them were ever advised that this might result in ICE cops kicking down your door some night in front of your kids and taking you away permanently. Where they fall into poverty, and that's a concern of mine too. I'm a resident here in New Brunswick. So now we've got terrorized mothers and children left. And who's going to feed them? Where do you think they're going to go? They're going to go to Elijah's Promise. They're going to go to our food banks. They're going to turn to us when I'm out walking my dog asking me for a couple bucks, and it's happening. It's happening. So these investors in the prison system are getting big returns on their profits. And who's getting hit to support the families? It's us. It's the citizens of Middlesex County. We're not going to let these kids and these neighbors that we've known all their lives now go hungry. They're going to empty our food banks. They're going to be at Elijah's Promise, and they're going to be at our doors. And we're going to take care of them. So I'm glad somebody who invested in prisons is making a profit, but it's certainly hurting me and my community to see this kind of domestic terrorism, and it's causing me loss of sleep at night as a lawyer, to know that I watched hundreds and hundreds of poor, bewildered people plead out to whatever with poor advice and poor understanding of what they were doing, but certainly they were never told that it could result in this kind of detention if they did this. The loss of their homes, the loss of everything they invested and worked for in America, and the terrorism of their children because they made this deal. We didn't advise them, and I'm sure you all know that. And now, because they pled out to things 10, 12 years ago, we say all of a sudden, now that it's profitable for somebody, they're dangers, they're criminals, they have to be deported. They own homes. They did this as young men. They pled in ignorance. They were not advised. This is not the way American justice system works. Thank you. I'll be back.
Hello, my name is Nikki Newby. I'm a resident of Somerset, New Jersey, and a member of the Democratic Municipal Committee there. As I'm listening to what's going back and forth, I'm getting the impression, since the ICE detainees are being held under a U.S. Marshal's contract, that what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Kelso, is that some of the people who are being held under this same contract are actually awaiting criminal trial or sentencing. Is that true?
Yes, I believe there are some in that.
There are some in
there
that.
are some that have also served time.
That have also served time. Okay. So there are different categories. So there's some who are awaiting, are currently charged with a crime, and are awaiting criminal trial and sentencing, and others who, in the past, may have had some criminal conviction, but currently are awaiting deportation proceedings, and others who don't have any criminal conviction, but are also awaiting deportation processing. Okay. I believe that we would be happy, and I haven't discussed this with my colleagues, but I believe that we would be happy if the freeholders could adopt a resolution and put this in an amendment to the contract with the U.S. Marshals, that you would not hold, as part of this contract, any person who is not currently charged with a crime or awaiting sentencing for a crime. That is, that you would not hold people who are just awaiting deportation proceedings, whether it's because of some immigration issue or because of some past conviction for which they already served. I believe, and my colleagues can let me know if they think I'm wrong in this, that if you could pass a resolution and amend the contract so that you would not be holding ICE detainees awaiting deportation, that I think that this would satisfy us.
Let me ask you a question on that so I understand it. If we are holding an individual who was convicted of a sexual offense or narcotics trafficking and served time either in a federal prison or in a state prison, and once their time was served, before they were released, they were then turned over to the federal authorities, which is what routinely happens, because as a result of their being in alien status and as a result of their conviction of a crime, they're subject to deportation. Are you suggesting that we not accept those individuals and rather they should be permitted to be released? Even though their criminal activity is what is resulting in their being subject to deportation?
We are suggesting that you not hold those individuals. Okay. And I want to make it clear that one of the reasons we're asking this is that prior to 1996, these individuals would not have been held in detention. Prior to new laws that were passed in 1996, surprisingly in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombings, the criteria for deportation and detention were changed. And up until 1996, even if somebody had a past criminal conviction, they could go before an immigration judge and plead the merits of their case. In other words, if they did something 10, 15 years ago and now they cleaned up their act and they have a job and a family and are good citizens, then prior to 1996 they would have been allowed to stay. The way it is now, the immigration judges have lost all discretion, and these people are not getting the fair hearings that they got in the past. So we would suggest that even though they may have some past criminal record and have served their time, that we would like you not to be holding them in your jail.
Excuse me, let me just respond. My experience, though, before 1996 as an attorney, however, is that someone who finished serving a sentence for a crime of a serious nature, sexual offense, narcotics, they were not just automatically released into the general public. That before they were released, the federal government put a detainer on them, and they were provided an opportunity for a hearing, but they were not just released and given an opportunity to get their act cleaned up because they've been in prison. And they had an opportunity to plead their case, but detainers were placed on them. And again, entitled to a hearing as they are today, but still subject to deportation. And I'm not certain where the distinction from the change in the law in 1996 and 97 has changed that perception of those that category of individual that.
Well, for one thing, some crimes which were formerly misdemeanors were recategorized as aggravated felonies. I mean, we're in a situation now where detention and deportation has been abused to such a degree that we feel right now it just needs to stop. And if we can go back to the way things were prior to 96, I think we would be happy. But I don't believe that the members of our committee have an objection to you holding somebody who is currently charged with a crime. I mean, because they do have the right to due process, and that's part of our law. Okay,
thank you.
I think this is the last speaker, huh?
I think that's the last person.
Hi there. My name is Ponjin. I can't hope to emulate the eloquence of those who spoke before me. Honestly, my knowledgeability about the matter is pretty substandard, and I'm just a local church pastor, assistant pastor of the Logos Reformed Church in Basking Ridge. So if you'll excuse my naivete and just allow me to say what I feel needs to be said. I understand in the past, I might have also fell into the assumption that, these are individuals, just give a blanket homogenization that these are all simultaneously criminals and deserving of these types of measurements. But getting to know these individuals individually, I find that that's not really the case, and there's more, and I come across a sea of names, including the 90 of the individuals who are women and mothers who are also put into these types of horrible situations, or somebody like Harry Pendergrass, member of Highland Park Reformed Church. I realize that there's a lot more complexities to this, and they're not these the stereotype criminals as we perceive them to be. I even have a statement from the Haitian community. Excuse my shaking hands and nervousness. But, and the names, a sea of names that I come across in these, the variety of individuals, Juan Delgado, U.S. Army veteran, even honorable discharge, even served in our country, and Nelson Flores, Rajesh, I can't pronounce the names even, but the sea of names that are within this list. But one of the things that they mentioned, though, is that the level of confusion that they have, especially on legislative matters, on one level they say there's time limits after a judge enters their final order. Section 1231A provides that government has 90 days to remove an alien from the United States. However, on another count, there's this confusion that they can't understand this disagreement within even government institutions where if ICE and /THD acquires the right to detain a person for more than 6 months after their final order. These types of confusions that they would like an answer for, and why is it that there's this inherent contradiction within our own government system. Furthermore, as they express collectively, some of us have been waiting over a year without any hope, suffering from all kinds of depression, mental illness, stress, and many other sicknesses. The Constitution created for the people, not to be a dictatorship of the people, whom the Constitution was made to protect. Human rights are violated for a purpose of sovereignty, and their prejudiced actions that goes highly undetected by the people whose views are obstructed by war, terrorism, and misinformation of the realities of what's transpiring. the picture that I get is a little more complicated, and I know that in this time of angst, I don't know how long it's been in terms of this times of national angst, perhaps it's a very easy thing to accept simple explanations, even simple solutions to these types of matters. But as I meet these individuals and hear their stories, I really don't see that's the case. And I think it's for that matter that I asked that the ICE contract is, I don't know what even the right word is, abolished. I just have trouble seeing this logic. I mean, from what was said, they've served their time if they had past offenses, and there's a problem there that there's a problem with immigration and how our nation is to understand it. But I don't see that. I mean, if that's the case, and with all respect, accepting your argument, I don't see the logical conclusion to be that the waiting time should be in criminal prisons. I just don't see, the conclusion from that premise. And I think on that basis, I'm asking, on that basis, like, alternatives to be explored, or even to, and one of them, obviously, is to abolish this awful contract. And I mean, as a new citizen as a new member of this Middlesex County, and I appreciate my stay here, I look to you as our leaders to make this bold step. I've heard that Middlesex is pretty progressive amongst the other counties. And it would be nice to see you take that step and really to show that, to make a public move to put that reputation into action. I mean, I would be very proud to be a member of Middlesex if that happened. And that is all I would have to say. Thank you.
Motion to close the public hearing. Get somebody? Yes. Yes, Mrs. Townsend.
It's going to be very, very quick and easy after what you've been going to listen to all evening tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jane Tausman, 14 Butler Road, Edison. I noticed in yesterday's paper that you're talking about doing something with Roosevelt. And so I wish that you could tell me a little bit more about leasing it for long-term care. There was a paragraph in your story, in the Home News Trib yesterday. So can somebody tell me what the status of that is right now?
Are you referring to the Old Bridge facility or the?
No,
Edison
you said
Park?
that you were moving people in, that you expected Old Bridge to be online and happening.
Yep.
But I was wondering what was going to happen to Roosevelt.
One of the things that had been done at the end of last year, there was some feasibility studies that were done by a group called Freedom House. And
Right.
as far as providing affordable assisted type living along with medical facilities at the historic location. At this point in time, after going through the report in early January, the numbers that came back were somewhat cost prohibitive. So they're going back and reworking some of the information as we speak, and under the guidance and leadership of Freeholder Rios, plan on looking at an overall strategy of looking at not only the Edison historic site, Old Bridge, and also Roosevelt Care, and look at that whole Edison campus.
Correct.
In a broader sense now, and even including looking at Zone A again there, to see if we could be more cost-effective in our approach and how we provide the kind of affordable assisted living, for the aging population and for those in need. So we are pursuing that in the coming weeks, and our hope is that Freeholder Rios will be providing a report moving forward.
Well, I'm glad to hear all of that, because I still think there's a big need for senior citizens in Middlesex County for care that's reasonable. And it has been provided, and I hope it will continue to be provided, because we really need it, especially in these times. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Tausman, if I may just elaborate a little bit.
Sure.
We're going to be calling a meeting amongst the administrator, myself, and a few other people in trying to research some information to expand that. And when the appropriate time is, we'll make an announcement as far as what our possible plans might be to try to meet all those requests.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I speak tonight not only for myself, but Mr. Alex Weiner and for Barbara Wyatt as well. We're all still very interested in what comes down. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion to public meeting.
Motion.
Moved by Rios.
Second.
Seconded by Carol Barrett. Motion adjourned, meeting adjourned.